Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. On behalf of the Graduate School at Princeton University, it's my honor to welcome you to the last day and the last session, final session, of the 2024 Grad Futures Forum Graduate Student Professional Development Conference. My name is Eva Kubu, and I'm the Senior Associate Dean for Professional Development. Thank you for joining us for the fifth year of this annual conference designed to support graduate futures. We created Grad Futures in 2019 to complement the graduate school's holistic support of graduate students, helping them explore, thrive, and find a sense of belonging and purpose while at Princeton and throughout their careers. The theme of this year's Grad Futures Forum was building clarity, confidence, and connections, and we offered a full week of sessions that provided real-time relevance to success in graduate school, as well as a glimpse into the world of possibilities beyond. Interdisciplinary research and interdisciplinary connections are so important. We also know that based on future of work trends, there is increasing demand for interdisciplinary skills, and as well, we know that interdisciplinarity is one of the key ways that we can address some of the world's grand challenges. So we're particularly excited about our next session, Unveiling Interdisciplinary Synergies Using the World Economic Forum's Strategic Intelligence Platform and Transformation Maps. It's my pleasure to introduce our presenters, Breanne Pitt, scholar and SFI Centre for Research Training in Digitally Enhanced Reality. Right, that's a lot. At Trinity College in Dublin. Thank you for joining us. Sargun Kaur Lalia, specialist in digital engagement and programming for the Strategic Intelligence Platform of the World Economic Forum, also joining us from Switzerland. We're very honored that you've come all this way to share more about the platform. And again, we're very eager to hear more, so I will invite you to come on up and begin your presentation. Thank you. Please join me in welcoming Breanne and Sargun.
Thanks, Eva, and welcome everyone to this session on unveiling interdisciplinary synergies. Breanne and I will walk you through the Strategic Intelligence Platform and really its applications in research and academia. I'm Sargun Lalia. I work as the Digital Engagement and Programming Specialist for Strategic Intelligence at the World Economic Forum. And really my focus is on bringing these powerful digital tools we have at the forum to a wider audience globally and helping them leverage it in their work. And in this spirit, we are both here today to share strategic intelligence with you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Breanne Pitt, and I'm a researcher with about 10 years of experience prior to my research in secondary education. And I'm very dedicated to learning about how different educational technologies can facilitate learning. And currently, I am working on my Ph.D. I'm a Ph.D. candidate at Trinity College Dublin, but I'm also a World Economic Forum Research Fellow. So I'm working now with the World Economic Forum to see how we can use some of the strategic intelligence features, specifically the transformation maps, in an educational setting. Okay, so just to set everything off and tell you basically why we're here, I want to talk about the current landscape and how this impacts strategic intelligence and why strategic intelligence has been developed because of this current landscape in which we now live. So, global challenges. There's new levels of complexity that didn't exist before in the world. Right here you can see, until recently, the levels of complexity of social systems were relatively low. Consequently, complexity was largely ignored. Our current transition from an industrial to an information society, which began at the end of about World War II, with the invention of computers, is particularly notorious for the very steep increase of social complexity. Due to this rapid development of digital technology, the world has changed, particularly when the internet transformed the world into a global village and linked regional and national markets into a single global market. Societally, we moved from a society where industry was prominent to a society where 60% of the GNP is knowledge services now. Also, there are educational failures. Education has largely failed in keeping up with this growing complexity. Educational systems are complex themselves, and therefore change is always slow. In most schools, the same 4 core courses, science, math, language arts, and history, are still taught in silos. Also, there's a lack of media literacy education being taught globally. The emergence of the internet and access to information has brought about new literacies that encompass internet, digital, media, information, and computer literacy. In a world in which information is key, being able to analyze the information being presented to us is of utmost importance. Yet only 38% of American adults report learning how to analyze and understand media messaging in high school. Unfortunately, media literacy education is not well established in most countries. Also, teacher preparation programs that include media literacy are rare. And this is a big problem when we're dealing with a world with a very complex media landscape. So, getting to that complex media landscape, our mass media is very polarizing. More access to information, but people have inadequate skills. Business models for social media, for example, like search, video, streaming, and others, prioritize maximizing screen time via algorithmic recommendations and sensationalism. This approach fosters what I like to call filter bubbles, and they reinforce individual narratives by confirming biases, and these ultimately can end up in alternate realities. People feel like they're really doing a good job at understanding the news. They do research, they look at all sorts of different articles, but little do they realize the articles are being handpicked for them because Google wants to keep you online longer. This is how they make money, this is their business model. So, solution. This is where systems thinking comes in. So what is it and why does it matter? So what is systems thinking? Systems thinking is a way of thinking that can serve as an improved, complex problem-solving approach. It recognizes that complex problems are part of a wider dynamic system composed of multiple components. It can assist in treating complex problem root causes rather than just symptoms in isolation, and this is a key one right here, and I'm going to show you a little bit more in the video that I have. It involves analyzing the relationships and interactions of these components to develop holistic solutions, and therefore outcomes are often positive and long-lasting. So I want to show you just a little video of what systems thinking is through a case that actually happened with the World Health Organization and a small place called Borneo.
In the 1950s, the Dayak people of Borneo, an island in Southeast Asia, were suffering from an outbreak of malaria, so they called the World Health Organization for help. The World Health Organization had a ready-made solution, which was to spray copious amounts of DDT around the island. With the application of DDT, the mosquitoes that carried the malaria were knocked down, and so was the malaria. There were some interesting side effects, though. The first was that the roofs of people's houses began to collapse on their heads. Turns out the DDT not only killed off the malaria-carrying mosquitoes, but it also killed a species of parasitic wasp that had controlled a population of thatch-eating caterpillars. Thatch being what the roofs of the Dayak people's homes were made from. Without the wasps, the caterpillars multiplied and flourished and began munching their way through the villagers' roofs. That was just the beginning. The DDT affected a lot of the island's other insects, which were eaten by the resident population of small lizards called geckos. The biological half-life of DDT is around 8 years, so animals like geckos do not metabolize it very fast. It stays in their system for a long time. Over time, the geckos began to accumulate pretty high levels of DDT, and while they tolerated the DDT fairly well, the island's resident cats, which dined on the geckos, did not. The cats ate the geckos, and the DDT contained in the geckos killed the cats. With the cats gone, the island's population of rats came out to play. We all know what happens when rats multiply and flourish. Pretty soon the Dayak people were back on the phone to the World Health Organization, only this time it wasn't malaria that was the problem. It was the plague and the destruction of their grain stores, both of which were caused by the overpopulation of rats. This time, though, the World Health Organization didn't have a ready-made solution and had to invent one. What did they do? They decided to parachute live cats into Borneo. Operation Cat Drop occurred courtesy of the Royal Air Force and eventually stabilized the situation.
If you don't understand the interrelatedness of things, solutions often cause more problems. All right, so as we can see there, systems thinking, therefore, could have prevented something like that because they wouldn't have been looking for just an immediate solution. They would have looked for what the actual problem was and addressed that. So when you don't use systems thinking, you don't account for all of the other things that can be impacted by one decision. So with that, I'm going to leave you now with Sargun, who's going to show you how to use the Strategic Intelligence Platform, which is a systems thinking tool. And it uses systems thinking methodologies to help people understand really complex topics. Sargun?
Thanks, Breanne. We'll look together now at the Strategic Intelligence Platform, which, as Breanne mentioned, tries to take the systems thinking approach to help you visualize trends, transformations, interrelationships, most importantly, and hopefully helps you prepare and leverage those visuals in strategic decision-making, in your work, in really every kind of pivotal decision that we take. So let's start by understanding what is strategic intelligence, the platform. Strategic intelligence is an ecosystem that helps users respond to accelerating complexity by helping them understand global issues, global transformations, etc., in their full or complete context. It provides a suite of digital tools, which we will look at together in just a couple minutes, which leverage machine learning, our extensive expert networks at the World Economic Forum, and the systems thinking approach to enable our users to make better strategic decisions by, as I said, understanding these transformations that are happening around them. The strategic intelligence tool does this by visualizing and analyzing connections for each topic. Currently, we have over 300 topics that cover industries, economies, global issues, science and technology, etc. And these dynamic visual frameworks, which you see in this little interactive GIF, or are we calling it GIF now? I can never be too sure. But we call these transformation maps, and we'll look at these together in just a moment. But the idea really here is to show you this complete 360-degree view of any of the complex topics that we work on every day. Just a quick note on our approach, because I think it's quite interesting, especially in this context where you are all working with different types of research tools, different types of research methodologies, in really looking into different diversity, a range of topics. So what we do is we take a very powerful resource of human intelligence, which we have via our extensive expert networks, and we marry them with our in-house machine intelligence system. And we bring these together in these transformation maps, which again is this dynamic visual framework that we're talking about that contextualizes systems thinking in each of these topics. And our aim is then for our users to be able to use these maps to increase their contextual awareness and then use that for improved strategic decision making. With this, we'll go quickly into a bit of a demo where you can start to look at the strategic intelligence platform, and we'll take a little bit of an interactive approach here and try to build out some maps together. But before we do that, I'll go over some features, some really powerful tools on this platform that you can use for your research work. So this is the platform this is really our landing page of sorts. You see we already highlight some things. But my favorite place to start is the Discover tab, which is really our library, our knowledge repository. Here are all of our 300 topics, or over 300 topics, I should say, and I'd like to think there's something for everyone. On days when I have time, I like to just scroll through all these topics and see what catches my eye. But on days when I'm trying to be a bit more productive, when I'm working on a little bit more of a time crunch, I narrow in on these collections. So collections are really clusters of maps that speak to each other, that come under the same umbrella topic. And here, you can see we have countries and regions, environments and sustainability, and you can keep clicking through to see what we have. Maybe for our work together, we can look at the artificial intelligence map, and I was just telling Eva that that's my favorite topic to talk about. So maybe this is my opportunity to talk about it a little bit more. So as you can see here with our global nav button, I've been able to look up look up with a simple keyword search what we have in store for artificial intelligence in this case. I see what map I want to use, and once I click on the map, you see we're taken into the transformation map environment. Just giving it a second, there it is. And I know right now it probably looks a little bit like a spider's web, but trust me, it starts to make a lot more sense, and before you know it, it'll be really a very intuitive way for you to read our platform as well. So I like to think each transformation map presents information or knowledge at 3 different levels. Here we are at the heart or the core level, which is the topic space, here in our case, artificial intelligence. You can see some text here. It's just a short overview by our expert curators. Here it's a team from McGill, and this overview is quite to the point, and the idea here is to really just sort of prime you for what you'll be seeing in this map. Then we get really into the meat of this map, which is this inner node, inner circle here with a few nodes which we call key issues. Now these key issues are extremely relevant. This is our way of first fleshing out the main trends, the main pillars, developments, really the anchors of every topic. Again, in our case, we're looking at AI together. As you click through each of these key issues, you read, or you'll see that there's quite a detailed analysis of each of these key issues, once again curated exclusively for our platform by our expert curators. You can keep clicking through, and there's always really interesting trends that surface here, that are discussed here, that are highlighted here. As you click through, you can see that there's some nodes that light up on our outer circle, which is our connected insight areas. Now this is where it starts to get really interesting. Through these key insight areas, we try to show our users how a topic they are looking at and the key developments in their topic, which might seem quite isolated or quite siloed, are actually impacting and are in turn impacted by a diversity of key topics as well. For example, if we're looking at AI, I think one of the biggest things that we always think about, especially maybe for me, is how is AI going to impact jobs? How is AI going to impact how we work, how we get work, how we get jobs, and really how society functions in a way? When you see that, you'll be surprised to see that this is actually quite interconnected with mining and metals, with mental health, with advanced manufacturing, etc. So this is where we start to map out these interconnections, where we start to understand how whatever we do does not exist in a silo. It's continuously interacting with and impacted by a whole range of topics that we might otherwise overlook. There might be something that you will decide to then dive deeper into, and this is where you start to develop these connections and start to understand how one topic sort of spills into the other, and then we end up in this sort of never-ending web of knowledge. Maybe in our case, we can look at, and I just saw this, maybe we can look at entrepreneurship and how, we're looking now that AI and entrepreneurship are interconnected. But for me, I am not an expert in entrepreneurship, and this might be an opportunity for me to dive deeper into how entrepreneurship as a topic evolves. In that case, I'm able to click through, and the system then takes me to this entrepreneurship transformation map space. Again, 3 levels of information curated with experts, interconnections, key issues, the whole gamut. But what I also want to point out here is our curated content feed. And here you'll see for each of our transformation maps, we have publications, videos, interactive data. In a lot of places, we also have case studies that are sourced from reliable partners, that are sourced from publication houses, research institutes, etc., who have gone under a thorough process of due diligence with us at the forum. And only then is their material surfaced on our platform. And I think in our world, especially where we're constantly bombarded with information, content, news, it becomes hard to then navigate that sort of ocean of information and identify what is reliable, what is usable, what is valid even today. And that's what we try to do with our content feed. We try to do the filtering process for you. We try to find partners who are reliable, publications which are reliable, and we surface them for you in this, I like to think, quite neat way of understanding and then navigating the content panel. Every sort of piece of knowledge you see here in all its different formats is completely available to you. Our aim is to make knowledge as widespread and make it as accessible to people across the world as possible. So whatever you find here, you're able to open, read, and also share with each other, share with your friends, with your colleagues, etc. And I think in this way, especially when you're starting research into new topics or still starting to become familiar with a wider, broader area that you would then dive deeper into, this is a great starting off point to begin your priming with that topic, to start your understanding and start unveiling where your research might fit in and really go deeper into a lot of the content we see here. One more feature I want to show you on these maps, and then I'll show you how we can actually start to build one. But this feature, I think, is an incredible research partner. And here it is. I'll just generate it for you, but this is our briefing feature. And what this does is that it generates a PDF summary of the topic that you are looking at. It provides you strategic context on the topic. It also gives you further exploration or further reading material. Again, extremely useful in research contexts. And it also starts to map out some latest insights, emerging trends, and future scenarios that you can then look at in research context, in application context, in industry contexts. There we go. Our PDF is ready. This is what it looks like. I do want to point out here that it mentions the date, and this is not by accident. This is quite key, because here we are today on 12th of April downloading this PDF. Some of you watching from home might be doing this at a later date, and when you try to generate this PDF, you'll see that the content is fully updated to that date. So every time you come back, we try to provide you the most relevant, the most latest, the most updated context around your topic. I'll just do a quick scroll so you can see what all we have. Like I said, we provide some latest insight, trends, current perspectives, and scenarios for you to use, for you to explore, and of course the strategic context around each of these topics. And to support our research partners, we have further explorations and references for them to dive deeper into. Going a little bit back to our platform, I want to take a couple minutes to show you really briefly the create feature. And why I'm showing you really briefly is that we have a bit of an exercise planned where we can dive deeper into the sort of feature together. But this is the create transformation map feature, wherein you can start to build out your own map. You can start to really map out interconnections that are relevant to you, that are key to you, and make what I like to call your personal compass, your personal monitor. This is what the builder ecosystem looks like, but we'll get to that in a minute and we'll do it together. But before we do that, I will hand back over to Breanne, who has a really cool use case, which I think might be relevant before we go into our interactive session. Breanne.
Can we pull back up the presentation just quickly? And go down. Yeah. All right, so this is the interactive session, which is building transformation maps for your personal research journey. So just to kind of start off, how can these maps benefit you in your research? And therefore, I'm going to provide you an example of what I did to support my own research by using the maps. But first, let's rewind a little bit and just talk about my PhD journey. So when I began, before I was starting my PhD, I was a teacher for 10 years. And I taught both literature and technology at the high school level. Throughout this period, I observed students having a lot of trouble being able to understand the news or understand mass media, things like social media, and being able to delineate or understand really what is good information, what is bad information, what is fake, what is disinformation, what is misinformation. It's just the Wild West out there right now. And throughout this period, I also saw students lose trust in institutions because they couldn't figure out what the institutions were telling them, and then institutions were telling them one thing and then going back because science changes. But people don't understand how science works sometimes. So there was a lot of confusion with students understanding information. And therefore, I thought, I'm a teacher, but I don't see education changing to meet these needs. So I think I want to do some research and see if I can figure out how to help students understand the really complicated media landscape that exists today and the growing complexity of our world. So therefore, I came up with a topic which my PhD basically proposes that engaging students with interactive digital tools that explore complex issues can equip them with the critical skills necessary to deepen their appreciation for the interconnectedness of societal issues and thereby reducing polarization. So how did I use the maps? Basically, I created a transformation map to help me understand the problem. And then after I understood what the problem was, or at least I saw what the map showed me different key issues were, I followed the latest publications that were related to that issue. So I would get the latest updates of the most recent academic articles that were written that related to the map in which I created. And after that, it made me also aware of different issues that contributed to the overall problem that I wasn't aware of before. A lot of us come in with assumptions, but assumptions aren't necessarily the best way to find a solution to a problem. So this really helped me identify some of the problems I might not have been aware of before. And also, in the end, this helped me write my motivation for my PhD, and it also helped guide my literature review. So for those of you working on PhDs or working on master's degrees, this can really help with your research. And I'll just show you quickly how that is done. Okay, where do I go back to here? Right here. Mm-hmm. All right, so a very easy way to do this, just quickly, is to use the Create with Map Assistant. So this is a combination of my input and also generative AI. So it asks right here, describe the map you would like to create in a few sentences. So I have a pre-made one. So basically, I'm conducting research on the major challenges that educational systems face. Oops, there we go. The educational systems encounter in preparing students for the future, specifically focusing on issues like fake news, disinformation, etc. Could you help me generate a comprehensive map that explains some of these issues or identifies them? So when I press generate, 10 seconds remaining, 6 seconds remaining, 2, 1. And there we go. I have a map that was generated for me. Now, this is where, keep in mind this is generative AI, and the disclaimer there, we have to be able to review this as the human So this is the human and the AI working together. So when I see this map, I go, oh, great, these are some really cool things that I hadn't even thought of. Geopolitical competition, the value of content, media trust and accountability, something that I am researching, social media and its impact on education. These are all great things that some of them I was aware of, some of them I wasn't. But at the same time, I might not think that geopolitical competition is necessarily relevant to my PhD research. So I might exit out, and instead I can look up other possible key issues. Maybe like, let's see, is there disinformation? Ooh, conspiracy theories. I like that. That could be great. It's a problem in education now, isn't it? All right, so then I have my map. And you can edit this for your own research, but this is how I kind of monitored the latest developments in my own research. And if I can come back here anytime and check out the newest and latest developments. And one thing that Sargun had showed you before too, with that briefing that you can actually create, the briefing provides me with possible scenarios too. So when there's possible scenarios, AI, there's a scenario you're at a company and you have to make a decision whether or not to lay off people and implement AI, or not lay off people and not implement AI, right? So that could be a scenario. You can work this through, if you're a teacher, with your students in a classroom and give them different scenarios to discuss. Or for me as a researcher, it makes me think about all the different possibilities I need to be aware of when I'm doing my research topic. Okay. All right, back to Sargun.
Great. Thank you, Breanne. I think that's super helpful, especially it helps us see how Breanne has used this in her own research and how it's become a tool for her in the work that she continues to do. I think with the time that we have remaining, maybe it will be interesting for us to work on a transformation map of our own. And I'm just looking at a few people in the room if they would want to.
Yeah, why don't you come on up?
Perfect. So why don't you talk to us about your research, and in the meantime on the screen we'll try to build a map together with some interconnections you are exploring, some that you would want to explore. So I'll just go into the create space once again. Note how we are in the create space and not the generator space. That means that we have to have our thinking caps on and really start to populate this map. I'm going to title it, not sure. We'll see what we come up with.
Tell us about your research. Yeah.
I work on electrical engineering, and to be specific, my research is about the wireless communication, how to make the base station to transmit data faster and more reliable.
That's incredible. So maybe we should look at, it can be wireless communication and its impacts.
Does that sound like it'd be your research? Wireless communication?
Right.
Yeah, perfect.
Great. And then here you can put in some descriptive text about your map, about what you're trying to explore. Maybe this is where you can put some context you already have. You can also add a cool image or just pick one of the boring ones from our library. And then you can really start to build out your map with a simple keyword search of the key issues. And this allows you to scan through thousands and thousands of key issues that have been curated by experts for our platform, experts who are really leaders, industry leaders, thought leaders in each of these topics. And you can start to put in some keywords and really begin to populate your map. Are there some keywords that already jump out or that you're already thinking about and we can see what the system has?
Yeah, I think one of the keywords is reliability.
Ooh, energy security, reliability, and resilience. Does that look like that matches?
Right.
Perfect.
And it is, as you can see here, it comes from our electricity transformation map. That means the wider context that this key issue has been picked up from is that of electricity. Is there something else you want to look at? Communications, digital media, just thinking what are some other types of keywords that we can use?
I think another keyword is the digital media.
Okay, let's see what we have for digital. Okay, so we have a whole map on digital communications.
There you go. Here you go. That's better.
Perfect. So looking at what we have for digital communications, we have a ton of these options. Maybe there's something that you think is relevant. Future communication systems might be relevant
It
here.
looks good.
Perfect. So let's add that to our map. Is connectivity and coverage something relevant? Perfect. Let's put that in. So I am more from a social sciences background. So when you tell me about wireless communication and its impact, I'm thinking also on along the lines of privacy, along the lines of security, global security issues as well. Do you think those are some interconnections that could be interesting to explore for you in this context?
Oh, of course.
So let's see what we have when we say security, maybe. So we have cyber diplomacy and international security, maybe not the perfect fit here. And as you can see, there's really so much when we type in these key issues that, that you really have to dig through and find what's relevant to you. And maybe here, I think something like changing polarity is interesting, especially when we're talking about communications and bringing the world together through communication and content. And maybe we can look at a final time on privacy and see what comes up there, and then we can look at what this map will look like together. What do you think is an interesting take on privacy for something like this?
I think it's this one, privacy and
Transparency. Perfect. So let's put that in, and maybe at this point we'll just use these key issues as a little bit of our example. But as Breanne said, you can continue to build out your map, you can add key issues, you can plug in content, and really keep adding your thoughts, your interconnections to this map. But one more thing you can do is create your own key issue. And this starts to become extremely interesting and really relevant when we're really zooming in on specific contexts that are that in research cases might be quite niche or might be quite unique to your context. And in that case, you have the ability to create your own key issue. And here, maybe, is there something that we couldn't find that you think we could map out on our own?
I think there's one word called the blockage of the communication.
Blockage of communication.
Great, so here you can see I gave it a title. You can also give it a subtitle. In the interest of time, I'm just putting some placeholder text. Again, you can here start to describe what this means to you, what you are looking at in this key issue, and that can become your description. And then you can yourself start to predict some interconnections, start to find what kinds of insight areas your topic is related to. So I'm thinking maybe here this is related to communication, digital communications maybe?
Yeah.
Great. What other type of broad topics do you think this key issue could be impacted by?
And also, I think it can be connected to the security.
Let's see what we have for security. Cybersecurity. I'm thinking maybe also international security. Perfect. Again, for the sake of example, we'll stop there, and we will now start to tag our key issue. Now, these tags are what is extremely important, because this is what's going to tell our machine intelligence what to populate your key issue with. What kind of content do you need to see related to this key issue? What kind of publications out there are relevant to this intersection? So maybe our tags here are communications, and the disclaimer here is that I'm really not the expert in any of these topics, so please take with a pinch of salt everything I put in here. It's really for the sake of example. Let's look at security. Communication protocol seems interesting. It's just taking a second longer than it normally does, but we will give it the time it needs. Security, and once again, I'll stop there just for the sake of example, but now you can see that the system's already trying to fetch some relevant knowledge for you. This is for you to see what it's going to look like, and if you think that it's not the right kind of material, you can then go back and edit your tags. We'll pretend we're happy with this, and this is already perfect, and we will go ahead, save, and add to map. And voila, you can see here, it comes up on our map. Once you're happy with the map in the moment, you can go ahead and save it, and then we'll go into view map mode, and you'll see how your transformation map really functions as any other forum map, and you can start to use it for your research, for your knowledge purposes, and for exploring these interconnections and keeping really a continuous stream of publications in your context for these kinds of topics. I will add an image just so we have a visual identity of what we've built together, and go ahead and save it again. And once it's ready, we'll go into view map mode, where you can really see this play out, where it becomes your personal compass of sorts. Sorry, forgive me, I think my internet is just a tiny bit slow. We'll do one more try, and then I also have a library of maps I've created, so we can always go back to something that's already up and ready. Okay, I think we might have to do that. Just going back to my create library, so the maps you create will, you'll be able to find, nope, I haven't built this one very well. Perfect. So the maps you create will come into this create library. Here you can see I built this map on leveraging AI for climate action. This is probably even a better example because I really took the time to add a description and curate this map a bit better. So since this map is already ready, we'll go on view map mode. And here you can see that it functions as any other forum map. You see the same structure where there's 3 levels of knowledge. So we're at the central level now. When I click through these key issues, I can see what the experts are saying for each of these really integral developments and trends in the space of leveraging AI for climate action. And then you have a, in this case, curated content feed that is curated to your needs, that is pulling together content that is relevant for what you need to be looking at and for what you want to be exploring and diving deeper into. Yes, Eva?
Is there perhaps a map for wireless communication?
Let's have a look. So I'll go once again to our global nav feature and search for maybe communication and see what we have. Great, so we have what we just created. This is, as you can see, I'm the owner, so we just created this, so it looks like it did save. It just didn't want to help me in that moment. But we also have this digital communications map, and this is more focused on digital communications more broadly, and you might be able to read a little bit more on connectivity and coverage, on the Internet of Things, etc. So I think, as I mentioned, we have over 300 topics, and they're curated with experts, so you can always explore what we have there. And the beauty of the create feature is really that you can build out, or you can start to map out intersections that maybe are unique to you, are contextually relevant to you, and then it creates your personal sort of knowledge library, your personal knowledge repository of sorts.
And there's your map.
So there's the map that we built together. Perfect. And here we go. You can see that there are publications. There's a content panel now dedicated to your research. You can click through, read what the experts are saying, and every day you'll come back and see the most latest publications in this space, and you can really start to use it as your knowledge and research partner. I'll stop here, but I hope it was helpful to see how to build out a map. And before we exit the demo space, just looking at the room if there are already any questions on the platform itself, which we can maybe start to answer already.
Yeah.
For sure.
Thank you. Also, something to note too, just as a student and as a former teacher, I use this map tool for essay building. I use it for essay building with students, and I also used it to help my own writing. So when I'm curating the content for my own map, I'm doing the writing. And it ends up being a very, very good structure for something like an essay when you have the introduction, and that is in your central node there. And then you have your related topics, and those or key issues, excuse me. You have the key issues, and those end up being your body paragraphs that you have to talk about. So this was a really good structure too for helping to build essays, just another way that it can be utilized. But yes, yeah, so I saw a question back there. Yes.
Does it pull in peer-reviewed publications?
So we have content partners from across the world and really from different also spaces. So that really depends on the publication or the publication house itself. It depends on how they've decided to write or research a specific article, and then also depends on what articles they have decided to surface onto our platform. But you will find a mix of publications, articles, and even white papers from organizations here. Yes.
Yeah, and I think my question was related to that, and I was just kind of playing around with the platform, mostly biotechnology, genome engineering, but it's going more into the science and tech side, and all of the nodes, most of the nodes, it was easier to find the social determinants, behavioral science topics, systems topics than the science and technology side of things. And I was wondering, is it because of lack of open access articles that are part of the system in that case, or what are some like caveats like that? Where I actually in the last 10 minutes I tried to like look at as many science and tech topics, and most of the prominent subnodes that were coming up were social science, behavioral science related domains for the science and tech, not so.
I think here the first caveat to observe is that the map content is curated by experts, so we don't claim to be the experts building out these maps. So when they relate it to a node or when they relate it to sort of the key topics or even the key insight areas, it's really their presentation of what they think is the most relevant or upcoming trends and interconnections that users such as ourselves should be looking at and should be sort of exploring further. So that's the first thing, that it might be related to how that expert team has built out that map and has identified relevant connections there. The second thing to note is that the content panel is in chronological order, so you will see what is most relevant at the top of the feed. So there might be cases where, or some topics where there's, and I think maybe day to day I observe this as well, that there's more publications or more things written as articles from a social perspectives, and those two tend to be sort of the most frequent types of publications. Again, this might be biased to the space I am in, but it's good to know that the feed is in chronological order, so you'll see the latest thing on top, and you may have to go a little bit deeper and scroll a little bit further. And that's quite easy to do. You can just see more and start to scroll a bit deeper into the other content that is available.
I think it's also important to note too, though, if you create your own maps, those tags are going to get you the content that you want. So if you want something, more techy and less social oriented, just make sure your tags, if you're building a map, indicate that, so that you can really kind of personalize that feed to exactly what you want. Because these other maps are already pre-made, and whoever created them, created their own tags. So if you create your own map, you'll get different results, if that makes sense.
Are there any other questions? Great, so then maybe we can just start to close off. And before we do that, Breanne and I wanted to share with you some reflection questions that can be really an interesting thought exercise when you're building out your maps, when you're also just starting to think about what are some interconnections, or how can we start thinking about interdisciplinary topics? How can we start thinking about cross-sectoral topics? So these are some reflection questions that might be interesting for you as you use the platform, as you start to build out your maps. So maybe we'll just leave them up, and and we will close off here. I would like to thank you all for your time, and we hope you can engage with the tool and that you find that it's your favorite knowledge partner. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Breanne and Sargun, and for our volunteer for coming up to try the transformation maps out. We'll look forward to being in continued conversation and sharing more about this potential research tool with our graduate students. Thank you, everyone, and this is the final session of the Grad Futures Forum, so we look forward to seeing you again next year. Thank you.